I like when they have a lot of comedy in it, because I think at the end of the day, it's a mixture. You're going to have these big visual effects. You're going to have these huge stakes, and the fate of so many are in the hands of so few. And humor is a great way to help smooth all of that out and let an audience enjoy themselves. And that goes back to the books. That goes back to, what Stan Lee did. And I think part of Marvel, a big part of Marvel, was the comedy. It was the humanity, the naturalism of the humanity of the flawed heroes. You had the villains who might have been misguided, but there was always a kernel of justification in what motivated them, and there was dimension to the villains, and then there was always the real world setting. I grew up, it was set in New York, and this one in Queens. This one it starts off in the neighborhood I grew up in. He goes to the school that's based on the school I went to, the high school, Bronx Science, and it was always, it felt real, and the humor felt real. The humor felt like it wasn't these gods up in the clouds. It was human beings dealing with these situations as anybody would if they found themselves in those circumstances. I think the fact that they both had a really deep relationship with Tony, and what Happy must have gone through in the 5 years that have passed, and what Tony went through when Peter wasn't around, and now what Peter's going through. I think Happy has been right there in the thick of a very intense time, and I think it matured Happy a lot. And I think that one of the things you could do as a supporting character in a world populated by superheroes is you could be there and help them and support them, because you can't do it, but that without you they might not be able to be their best selves. And so I think, and as I get older in life, it's like you see that that's really there's a calling to that of being, because we're all interdependent. And so I think, at least I projected on the character, that he takes all of this much more seriously. He could still be comic relief at times, but I think that there has to be strong emotional moments where all of that could recede to the background, and you could kind of speak to what's really happening. And there's a lot of there's been a lot of emotional challenges for these characters. What's really fun about this is that there's so many different settings, and you have an established set of characters, and you have a honestly limited amount of storylines that you could pursue and still maintain the Marvel formula of hero versus villain. And so by of course, great casting, bringing in great people to play as Tom's foil, but you also have a great backdrop and all these opportunities for wonderful set pieces. When what happens when you're using the web shooter in Venice and the structures aren't office buildings in Manhattan, but they're instead old world structures that might not have the same structural integrity. What happens when you're traveling to places where you don't belong? How does that feel, even if you're not a superhero, even if you're just a student, having your eyes open to what the world is like in all different cultures and different settings and histories? And of course, from a filmmaking perspective, it's really fun for them, I think, to use this as inspiration for, hey, where would I love to put a set piece? How cool would it be for us to be filming in the Tower of London or outside the Tower of London? And so it was really fun going to the set, and you'd show up, and there you were, the place that I was last time I was there, waiting in line to see the crown jewels, and now you have hundreds of extras running around. I'm getting to do stuff that I couldn't ever do if I was directing or worrying about all the things that the filmmakers are worried about. I get to just come in and say, where do you want me? What do I have to do in the scene? How can I help? And I find even as I cast directors bring a different energy, because they're looking at the big picture in a way of like, how can I be of service to this? How can I help you tell the story? And I think when I was just an actor, I didn't always understand that. But as a filmmaker, I really relate to the struggle that the filmmakers are going through, And I try to offer, once they identify what they're trying to fix or what the problem is or what their concerns are, I can address it from that perspective and hopefully bring a lot of, a lot to the collaboration. The whole Aunt May storyline more services the teen comedy version of how could we make Peter off balance as a high school student. And so that's something straight out of John Hughes or, that type of movie. And so it so much of the film is, hey, how are we going to solve this problem? How are we going to fight this bad guy? How are we going to get the tech back online? How are you going to, all of these lofty things that you would deal with in an Iron Man movie, but then he's worried about his relationships at school or who his aunt is dating and all the weirdness that makes for such, so fertile for comedy in intergenerational relationships in a teen comedy.
Hi there, here's today's Daily Fact. As of 2019, the number of films in the MCU seem countless, with so many Avengers films along with standalone movies with characters that range from Ant-Man to Doctor Strange. But the very first film in the universe was back in 2008, with AC/DC blaring in the background and Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark wearing the famous Iron Man suit. Remember to click below to subscribe.